All right, so there's a lot going on in the culture that Mo wanted to cover this morning. Mo, we missed you yesterday when we were talking about DMX, man, because I didn't realize, dude, how much of an impact this guy had in the rap game and the music industry. For us, to be honest with you, I mean, for me, not knowing, not having the education, the dude was kind of a punchline because every time we talked about him, it was him getting arrested again. But he was so much more than that.
Yeah, man. A lot of people didn't really realize how much of an impact this dude had on just the culture and music in itself. I mean, for about 2 to 3 years, DMX had a rock star-like run, putting up numbers that no one had ever seen with 2 albums that he released. And those numbers, a lot of those numbers still stand today because he just impacted that many people. And he came at a time where there was just nothing like him. There was nothing like him before or after. His genuineness, his approach to music, the kind of person he was, everything about DMX, every story you ever heard about DMX was a positive one in how he just has faced so many demons, but somehow, some way has kind of come out on the end of that in just being powerful and being impactful for other people. That was his whole thing, was constantly praying for other people and stopping to have that kind of a relationship with all of his fans. And I've been a fan of DMX my entire life. I mean, when I was a kid, I looked up to this guy. I've told the stories before on air about how when I finally had a great relationship with his family, with some of his cousins, that I tried like 4 times to see him. And then finally, the time that I got to hang out with him, I ended up leaving the job that I was at currently to go hang out with DMX. And we ended up eating hot dogs together and just kicking it for like an hour. And he gave me his phone number and he would text me from time to time to check on me. I mean, he was just that kind of guy. And anybody who had ever met him would say that about him. And you can go back and look at some of those videos of when he performed at like Woodstock and how many fans were there who just knew his music, who felt his energy. It was different, man. And he's the kind of energy that now that he's gone, you can feel it. It's a void. It has the same kind of impact in hip hop when Biggie passed. Really? When Tupac passed. Yeah. It's that kind of, yeah. It's that kind of feeling with DMX. I mean, he was a big deal to a lot of people. A lot of people who were in a lot of dark places relied on DMX and his music and his spirit to kind of get through a lot of rough times. So it's hip hop is really going to be sad and hurting for a long time with this loss. This one hits a little different.
So you were hanging out with a legend then. Tell us about that. Again, this is like really eye-opening to me because I didn't realize that you could put him in the same sentence as Biggie and Tupac.
Oh, 100%. So when I was in about like 7th to 8th grade, in that range, my best friend and I both had DMX chains. That's how big of a deal it was. And we were like that kind of fans from day one. It was just the genuineness about him. He was who he was. He was him, man. It was just it's no one like DMX. He was a one of one. And if you were a fan of his, you just knew that. And his music, you could feel like that it really came from a dark place. It came from his soul. It came from him being a survivor and having to go through all that he went through to make it to where he did. And he was so generous that he just constantly gave everything away. He never cared about money. He never cared about cars, jewelry, any of those things you typically will see with rock stars. He just didn't care. He just was a man that was for the people. He wanted to make good music for the people, and he wanted to do whatever he could to help those around him. Unfortunately, when he was about 16, somebody gave him some marijuana that was laced with crack, and it changed his life forever. He had became an addict and he couldn't shake it, and it just followed him throughout his entire life, and it became a part of him. And like you said, a lot of casual fans, those are the only stories they ever heard. But I knew the real DMX, and I was such a big fan that I was going to meet him. And one day, one of the receptionists ended up being his cousin. And when I found this out, I just hounded her all the time. When is he coming? When is he coming? When is he coming? And the day that he was finally there, I left my desk, I went downstairs, and I just wanted to give him a 5 and just tell him how much I loved him and how much he impacted my life. And he was like, "No, you come with me." I said, I can't do that. I'm at work. And he's like, no, let's just go outside. Let's just talk. And then in my mind, I'm like, when am I ever going to have a time to just sit and talk with DMX? So I was like, if I get fired, this is worth it, man. I gotta do this. And the next thing I know, we're outside, eating hot dogs at a stand. He's drinking Hennessy, offering me some. I couldn't do it. It's 9 a.m, but he's drinking a half a gallon of Hennessy and literally just offering hot dogs to anybody who passed. Yo, you want a hot dog? yo, you hungry? Want a hot dog? And some people are stopping like, wait, is that DMX? And I'm just sitting there in the middle of New York City for like an hour, man, just kicking it with DMX. He's talking about his family, my family, things that he's going through. How he just prays for me. When people would come up to him and meet him, he would go, you need me to pray for you? Like he would just ask you, are you going through anything? You need me to pray for you? Like he never really looked at himself as a superstar. He was never that guy in his mind. He was just a dude who made it and wanted to really serve the people. And I never forgot that moment. It was the only time I got to really hang out with him and meet him for sure. But he was as advertised, man. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. I'll never forget it. He was that kind of dude.
What a surreal moment. And I'm assuming that if you have a story like that with a guy that he just met, there are thousands that have a story with DMX just like that.
It's true, yeah, and a lot of them are trending. They're threads on Twitter. If you ever just want to read some stories about how he's helped strangers in just strange places, I mean, they're out there and they're amazing. He was a different kind of guy.
The Bert Show.